In Event Horizon, players embark on a thrilling sci-fi adventure set within the mysterious depths of an event horizon, a place where reality bends and everything is not what it seems. Players assume the role of an astronaut awaking amidst the wreckage of their spacecraft, and must navigate this new world, uncover its secrets, and confront the ultimate choice that will shape their destiny. The early stages of development for Event Horizon were filled with imaginative exploration. Concept artists and designers brought the game's universe to life through vivid sketches and preliminary designs showcasing alien landscapes, strange anomalies, and the intricate technology that would define the game's visual style.
Hello, my name is Caleb Dieters, and I was the producer for Event Horizon. For greenlighting the project, both Anderson and I, the creative director, we had a list of about 5 games to choose from. And we sat down and we discussed the options, and we decided that Event Horizon was really one of the best ideas that we've seen, and so we were going to go ahead and go with that one. We were pretty confident in that, but for the assembling of the team itself is a little bit of a harder decision. What we got was, we got a huge list of names and really just one small portfolio piece for each one, and at the time we barely knew any of them. I think we only knew 1 or 2 people on the team prior, and we were really worried about, how is the team going to mesh together? Are they all like good work ethics? Because all we had was one small portfolio piece, and we really lucked out. We got by far the best team in the entire program, so it's really, really glad to have them all. As the producer, it's really my job to make sure that the project gets finished. I had a huge list of due dates to go through right in the start. I had to come up with a 9-month plan in about 2 weeks-ish. I had a plan for, we didn't even know the game at this point, and I still had a plan all the way out. So it was a really huge task in the beginning, kind of overseeing the project and making sure everything goes along. But truly the hardest part was finding all the work for everyone. Having a team of 20, that's a lot of people to manage, and I've never managed a team of that size before. Usually I'm a code lead, so I have like 2 or 3 people I have to deal with, but never a team of 20. And so it was a lot of work trying to find all the work for the people, and then it really helped out when the team leads stepped up, because I was able to use them to pass the information around.
The initial spark of inspiration behind Event Horizon stemmed from the fascination with the concept of black holes, particularly what lies beyond the horizon. The development team envisioned a game that would immerse players in an uncharted world overrun by otherworldly creatures and cosmic wonders, challenging them to survive and uncover the truth behind their existence. Creating a unique science fiction universe presented several challenges for the development team. One of the main hurdles was striking a balance between scientific plausibility and imaginative storytelling, ensuring that the world felt both authentic and captivating. Another challenge was designing creatures and environments that truly felt alien yet believable to the players, enhancing the sense of discovery and wonder within the game.
Hi, my name is Julian Olivieri, and I'm the design lead of Event Horizon. Design's philosophy walking into Event Horizon was very simple: RE in space. With that in mind, our goals became very clear. Pack as much action and adventure into this sci-fi shooter as possible, while balancing a great narrative and including a bit of Souls-like through utilizing gun modification. The process of conceptualizing gameplay mechanics and world-building elements went through lots of meetings between design and narrative. We really wanted to make sure that the levels that we were building and the ideas that we were coming up with for our mechanics really worked hand in hand with the story that narrative had given us and with the visions that they had for the game. Keeping those things in mind, we came up with ideas that we then presented to our creative director, who then approved it, and we ended up with our mechanics in the final game.
One of the most important parts about any game is game feel. Obviously, the artists need to create a world and a cohesive art style that doesn't break the immersion and can let the environment work for the purpose of the narrative or the gameplay. And then the designers need to take those assets and place them and morph them into the way the direction of the story or the gameplay need to go, so that they can make one full experience. And then the coders have another huge responsibility in that, which is they need to make sure the game feels fun to play and it gives you that intended experience. So if it's a horror game, then they need to prioritize tension instead of maybe like tight movements or something, that would you'd get from like a first-person shooter, for example. So yeah, all of those pieces really come together to form game feel, and that is the most important aspect of any video game.
I think the biggest challenge with developing the systems for this game was just keeping them up to date with the small and large adjustments we were making throughout the entire project. Design and code team had to work really close together, just because the design team would come up with these amazing ideas, and then the code team would have to develop and give them back so they could be implemented into the system.
From the narrative, that the world that the protagonist is caught in is pretty gruesome, and that the dynamic that the singularity has with the environment and the entities within it are very hierarchical in nature and very subservient to the singularity. And so it paints a pretty grim picture of who the singularity is and the area in general. And so we wanted to show that the enemies and everything that you interact with is kind of subservient to the singularity. And if you're an entity, that's gonna, you're not really gonna have independence or free will or anything like that. And having that taken away from you would kind of make you something less than human. So we tried to show that they're very far from human.
For the challenges of a large-scale team, it really goes crazy with the amount of people we had. We totaled around 7,300 hours logged on the project, which is a crazy amount. And really making sure everyone gets their ideas in and they feel like they contributed well was one of our top priorities as leadership, to make sure that everyone had, at the end of the project, felt good about it and the work they did is comparable to their skill set. So it was really just making sure all the deadlines got set and that each department worked continuously together to make sure that they all maximize their output. As the project advanced, we found out that my role on the team was more or less a facilitator for communication between the different departments, totaling about 20 people. Each department themselves were big. Code had 4, design and art had about 8-ish. And so it was really huge teams, and my job was like a facilitator to make sure that everyone worked together, and then also working as the producer above it, making sure that all of their pipelines synced up. And so it took a lot of work from me and the team leads to make sure that everyone's pipeline synced up at the end and that no one was wasting time waiting for another one to get done.
For the enemy design, we kind of found one reference in our design phase that showed exactly what we were looking for, and we tried to base all of the enemies from design phase 2 around that single reference and blend them together. So you could create like a hierarchical structure within the enemies that we were given. And so the Crystal Guard, of course, is going to be the biggest and the baddest, and it has crystals like attached to it, which crystals are something that the singularity likes to hoard. And then everything else doesn't really have crystals attached to it, but it does have that really grotesque grafting effect to it. And then other things, like to help explain like the flying enemy, we had the overhead trap enemy, which is almost like the cocoon phase of the flying enemy. Like they're very similar. And then elements and even just colors and textures are shared between all of the enemies. So like in the Frond Beast, it was originally going to be very green and swampy, but we swapped it out for more similar things from other enemies so that it all matches together. From the design phase, we had quite a long way to go to breach the gameplay and the narrative together, but we did that through a series of meetings. We also had several meetings over composition, color, and stuff like that. On the more technical side, things like getting the skybox black hole to work was quite tricky, but we got figured out within think under a week in the first semester, which was really cool. And then we had really big issues with Unity's terrain system. So those terrains were made within the art team and then baked onto the height map of the terrain instead of through the Unity editor itself, which that was kind of a pain because it was a very stagnant process where if we needed to make changes, it wasn't very easy to do so. But the result of it was a really, really nice terrain with some environmental simulation effects like erosion and all that. One of them was a triplanar shader for the rocks. We did end up making it, but we weren't able to make it look how we wanted it to look. In fact, it did its effect, but it didn't do its effect like how I was imagining it. So we went back to the base shader for it. There was some back and forth on the life bar for the UI, like an in-game UI. We never came to a real clear conclusion on that one, as far as I know. And then there was a lot in level 3 that was pretty difficult. One of them was inside of the core of the black hole. There's a sphere with inverted normals, and you walk into it, and then you can see this, starry sky. And I was going to use world projection on that shader so that you could see that without any UV scenes showing. And the projection actually didn't work out as intended. So I'd have to change the UVs itself and go to a more UV based shader for that. And then there's a effect that's kind of like a Donkey Kong ground pound, and it sends out like this shockwave, sort of like the Donkey Kong one in Smash Bros. And that shockwave never came to fruition just because I wasn't sure, and I was a bit scared to confront it on how to do that one. I have my ideas, but nothing of fruition. It was just too daunting. After the first design phase, we had our first sprint, and that was basically us trying to figure out how we're going to turn our concepts and ideas into actual assets in engine, and that was through the pretty corners. That's when the entire art team got together and kind of pulled up our bootstraps and figured out how we're going to do it, what knowledge we have, what knowledge we're missing, and we kind of filled all those gaps in that phase. In that single sprint, everyone got on the same page, very cohesive. Most of it really was just learning together. And from that point on, it was okay, we have a really solid art team. We have ideas on what each level is going to look like, and that continued throughout production.
I want to dive a little deeper into Event Horizon's design process behind some of the game's mechanics and features. Even though Event Horizon is mostly action and adventure, we wanted to heavily incorporate narrative into the game, and the way we decided to do that was through the Omniscanner. The Omniscanner is a scan visor that takes the player from third person into first person, and allows players to scan things in-game. Through the utilization of multiple scan types and a log system to store the information after, the Omniscanner allowed for us to convey lore information and deliver key story beats to the player in a new, fun, and unique way. From the beginning, most everyone agreed that we wanted a big, heavy weapon that was powerful and had very limited ammo supply. That came in the form of the Nexus gun. Originally, the idea was to have this weapon be a one-shot, one-kill to most anomaly types, but since that was a little too overpowered, we introduced a weapon augment system that had the base Nexus gun become a lot weaker, but through the collected weapon parts in-game, the weapon was able to be upgraded and modified so that its final state would be the one-shot, one-kill heavy weapon that the team wanted. Due to how diverse our levels were from one another, we wanted to introduce a feature that allowed the player to know where they are at all given times. This was through the Tachyon Translocator. This device would serve as a compass in its most basic form and allow the player to know which direction they are traveling at any given point. We wanted to build on this a little further so the Tachyon Translocator is also able to track portals or rift points, which can then be seen on the compass, making navigation a little easier for players.
Player feedback and testing was a crucial part of shaping our gameplay. As a game developer, you get tunnel vision, but playtesters will come in and use your system in a way you had not intended or even considered. But a lot of times, their way is more fun.
Player feedback heavily influenced design decisions and our gameplay experience because we wanted to produce levels that were easy to understand and fun to play. Lots of our feedback through the course of creating this game was that navigation was difficult. So from revisiting level design to incorporating different art assets, we were able to produce what we envisioned and create the player experience that we were after.
Being a creative director is something I've always wanted to do, and it's still what I want to do in industry. So, this being my first outing was certainly a learning experience and a growing pain. I think ultimately we did really well. It was definitely really tough at the start. The start was definitely the hardest part because you have so many ideas flowing, and it's my responsibility to make sure they're all cohesive, they all work together. It's my responsibility to shoot down what needs shooting down and to be kind and thoughtful in doing that, which was something I struggled with. It's hard to do all of that together, but ultimately I think we really came together to make a truly amazing experience. It was certainly rewarding. I think it was a excellent first true outing into development of games that we've stepped into, and I think all of that tension is what led us to what we have today. You know, we really pushed through to make a really worthy product, and it was that dedication that ended up leaving us with what we have now.
Hello, my name is Rima Cunningham. I am the marketing lead and concept artist of Event Horizon. From the bottom of my heart, thank you for watching Voice Studios' production documentary, Beyond the Horizon. If you're a student entering workshop who got this far, I hope this video gave you a good glimpse into what's to come, and I wish you the best of luck. Welcome to the end of the line.